Hi everyone, welcome to our live. It's all me. Today we're gonna talk to Wendy, and she's coming. Hi Patty, how are you? I'm just waiting for Wendy to ask to join us. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. And one more time to have a lovely lady to do a conversation with you guys about Wendy life as an entrepreneur. And me Canada, hi. Hi Patty. So Wendy, I think you just need to ask to join the live, and then we can, and then I'm gonna be able to have you. Let me just send a message for Wendy. Give me just a minute. And I hope you guys are all amazing. And from US, awesome. Hi Patty, awesome. Okay, Wendy's here. Awesome. Yay, from the United States. Oh, that's great. How did you discover us? Okay, hi. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, how are you? You can see well. Let me try to put this a little bit further. So I think this is good.
That's good. Hi. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry. I'm just figuring out that we have a person here with us that she's from the United States. So I'm just super happy to have someone from the United States. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I hope you
Nice.
enjoy. So welcome for our room. Wendy,
Thank
welcome. Thank you
you.
for accepting the invitation to join today. As you know, just to remind everybody, because we're gonna have those lives on YouTube as well. So maybe someone is going to join us and doesn't know, right? So what we're talking about. So the goal of the live, it's on me. It's to share with other women entrepreneurs and others entrepreneurs their lives as entrepreneurs. So how was their path to become entrepreneur? What kind of challenge? How did they overcome the challenge? And then a little bit of you as a about your business, right? So the goal is really to share, and then that's a good way for everybody to learn with each other and feel like it's not just me. It's all about me, but I'm not the only person that is going through, like the same kind of things. And also now this year, I'm always inviting people that can help us, right? So that can help us as entrepreneurs. So, and today Wendy's here. Wendy's a financial advisor. So, and a Brazilian as me.
Yeah. That's the best part. So we're
Yeah,
Brazilian, so that's the sauce, the secret sauce.
the secret sauce. That's why, right? So we are so vibrant.
Yes, like we have that
Yeah.
energy, the Brazilian blood, right? So that's why.
So I really want to say thank you for you to be here. Wendy, I would like you to do an introduction, introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can start to have a quick conversation about your life as a businesswoman.
Okay, so I'll share the beginning of my journey into finance. So I have been in Canada since 2014. So it's been a decade, a little bit over a decade now. And I came here for school, and my goal was to learn English and go back to Brazil, but I never did. So I ended up doing another degree here in marketing. And I ended up turning to get into finance in 2019 because I graduated from school. And I think people talk a little bit more about money here than back home. And I will never forget that my host mom, she was saying, like, as soon as you graduate from school, you have to start to save money for retirement. But I was so young that was not something I was thinking, you know, it was not on my radar to think about retirement, which is going to happen over 30 years from now. So it was not something, and earlier was even more, right? So it was a little bit more further away from my future.
Yeah.
And I started to search about things, and I ended up like crossing a company that was offering financial education. And I mentioned to a friend that I went to the bank and I couldn't get information. So I started to get very interested in the topic. And the sooner, like after, what I knew was that my friends was asking me about financial advice and financial like tips and stuff. And I was like, well, I think I kind of like this. I think it's something I want to deepen my knowledge into, and I think I want to turn this into a career. And for me, it was for two different reasons, right? So first, I wanted to have more control over my work schedule. I wanted to be able to be with my family in Brazil whenever I wanted to without asking for time off. But I didn't know much about entrepreneurship, so that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, living in two different countries, like we live here physically, but our hearts are back there. So I don't know how it is for you, but having the family there, the history. So we grew up in a different country, and when you come here, you have to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things that was really heavy was that I was not able to spend the time I wanted with my family, because working with a company, you have 3 weeks, like 2 weeks off, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You need to request time off, and then not all the time when you're on vacation you want to go back home, right? So I was in a loop that I had to go home every year and use my vacation to be close to my family. But then I was like, I want to do something else. You know, I want to meet other places. I want to do other trips. But at the same time, I didn't want to stop seeing my family. So that's when I started to put one and one together, and was like, that's two, that's not three. So it's like simple math. And I was like, it's not what I want. So basically, that's how I decided to start to develop my business and my practice, was mainly to afford the things I want personally without having all the rules that corporate will imposing into the job that you get, right? So there's rules to be an employee, and I never really liked rules, but we have to follow them. But with your life, I think you need to have a little bit more control over the things that it's important to you, because we can't do that, right? So it's not something out of reach.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting because I like to see that the decision of going to financial advisor, it was kind of like a natural path, right? So you were not like looking for it, and you were trying to find more information about yourself, and you kind of find, oh, this is a good way for me to organize my life in the way that my life to look like, right? That
Yes,
is different.
exactly. That was the bonus of it.
That's a very interesting point. Like, because I think a lot of people think that when we decided to have a business, that needs to be 100% related to our passion, and not necessarily need to be like, because I love to cook, so I'm going to become like a personal chef, right? Because that's, and not necessarily that can be just a hobby. And you can think, I like this another thing as well. And that can be a job, because if I do that, bring the life. And I think that's a very interesting point, like, because it's good. And for people that are very young, when you are in the path, like to make a decision about what you're going to do in the rest of your life, and we can change. And that's another thing here, we can change. Different from Brazil, right? When you define a path, you kind of stay stuck with that path because it's difficult to move around with different careers.
Mhm.
And then I love to hear what drove your decision to become a financial advisor, and then I want to know now what was, so this was the way you decided to be there, but what was the main challenge that you had when you decided, so I want to be a financial advisor, this I'm not sure if it's the name is financial advisor, you can correct me.
It is. It's financial advisor. That's what we do.
And I some people here, that's for sure, they are coming from your follow you, and one of them said you're the best financial advisor.
Oh, thank you. You guys are very sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so clients, that is also amazing here. But if you can share a little bit, what was the main challenges when you kind of figured out, so this is gonna work for me, I want to go to this path, and then what was the challenges and how you decided to overcome those challenges, right?
Okay. So I think, like, I read a book that's called Design Your Life, and it teaches you how to think a little bit like a designer. And it was before I did my career change. I was in Canada for about like 8 years at the time, or well, it's being five now, probably 6, 7 years, something like that. I don't remember exactly the time frame, but I
Okay.
was not very happy with what I was doing, right? So I started to question, like, am I going to work in this corporate job for how long, just dragging myself to pay the bills? And I think like the mind shift for me happened when I started to see that a lot of people struggle with money. So my family was not educated financially. Like nobody knew how to deal with the economy, the system, how money works really. And I think when you come from certain like aspects, like from certain layers of the society, let's say this
Sure.
way, you don't consider that your $300, your $200 is something to start, right? Because you think you need to have a lot of money to start, and it's not the reality.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to start with what you have, and then
What?
from there,
Yeah.
from there you're gonna build up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
think was the biggest mind shift for me, because like when I talked to an advisor at the time in the bank, they're not very interested in people who have like a small amount of money, because they like to work with high net worth individuals, meaning people with a lot of like assets and income and a higher net worth.
Uh-huh.
So when I talked to the other advisor from the office, I was going to get some financial information. I could see that my $300 was worth something.
Uh-huh.
And I started to get more curious about everything, and that's how I turned to like I kind of like got more interested in the field. And it was a combination, as I said, like having a little bit more freedom, like finding something I like. I always thought I was not very good with numbers, because I had that myth in my mind. That's why my first two degrees are in journalism and marketing. So
Yeah.
I thought, I was like, okay, numbers is not my thing. I don't like numbers. But little by little, when I started to understand, I was like, it's just a fear that we all have, because sometimes people will say like, oh, you're not good at this, like you can't do that. And there's a lot of things that people tell us, which is their own fears, but they're projecting into you. So you think you're not able to do those things. And I think that was my journey of reversing back things that people labeled me, but was not me labeling myself, but was creating a limitation for myself with things that I wanted to do.
Yeah. No, that's amazing to say. So that's so again, different way to look at things. So your challenges were more internal challenges, right? So, and I'm so sorry, I'm trying to figure out my light here.
Okay.
Maybe
We do what we
to
have
make
to
it
do.
look better. I'm so sorry about that. Just trying to make it.
Okay. We'll make it normal, Anna.
Yeah.
Normal life
No,
doesn't have a
yeah.
script, we go with
You
the
know,
flow.
and you try to see where. Okay, but this is a important point, because we talked a little bit about that when we were talking with Maria Eliana. Maria Eliana is a psychologist,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes we keep thinking like the challenge is going to be the, let's say, money is going to be the challenge, time is going to be the challenge. I don't know how to do things. We're gonna, but maybe the challenge is an internal challenge, right? It's our
Yes.
beliefs. Like,
Yeah, the old beliefs that holds so many people back. I think the main thing that stop people to go into what they like is the fear of like, someone saying they're bad at doing what they're doing, that nothing that they do works out and things like that. Because we do seek for validation, right? So I think we have approval addiction, right? So all of us, until you get to the point where you know who you are, you're seeking validation from other people, and not only professionally, but in other areas of your life. And breaking through that little barrier will let you see so much more and all the capabilities that you have, right? Because we all do have
yeah,
the
no,
potential to do anything we want to do. It's just like breaking through. And I think entrepreneurship is about that, right? So breaking that barrier that it's in your mind, and
yeah,
then starting to see what you can do and create when you're not fearful of the results. And also, like, failure is a big thing, because I think, like, the way I grew up, failure was not something that was really allowed. And funny enough, that's the only thing that makes you learn, right? And
yeah,
especially in business. So if you don't
yeah,
fail, you're not going to uncover anything that you could be uncovering to prevent a future issue. So all those things that we think is not going to be useful in life, they are useful in entrepreneurship, right? So failing, understanding the labels that society or other people are going to put into you that is not really yours. Like, how can you separate the things in between what people think about you and what you really think about yourself? So
uh-huh.
those are the biggest things, I think.
Yeah.
In terms, okay, go ahead. I was going to say in terms of challenges, because you said like the
Please.
challenges
No,
of
no,
the business.
I'm loving that you're talking about all of those stuff because it's difficult to touch base those points sometimes, and to make people think, oh, now I realize that's how this is how I feel. That's the goal of having this kind of conversation, because maybe a lot of people here are gonna think, oh, I feel like that. I have the fear of failure, and that's why I don't move, like I don't do whatever I'm thinking about doing,
Mhm.
or because I'm afraid of people are gonna judge me because I'm deciding to quit my full-time job and then put more hours in something that is not, let's say, 100%. I'm not sure 100% sure that's gonna work, right? Because
Uh,
the day nothing is 100% sure,
no, yeah, life is not. It's
right?
not a straight line, but we want it to be, but it's not.
And life just happens. So, and just to share a little bit, I'm from corporate as well, and doing this shift of understanding, I don't want to work in corporate anymore because I want to be the my own boss. I want to be responsible for my own hours and to provide by myself, and then decide how much is the value that people are going to pay for my hour, right? So this is my decision now. This is not the industry decision. This is my decision.
That's your personal decision, and knowing how to price yourself. I think you touched on something that is very important, because I think even when people are seeking jobs, sometimes I help clients to
Yeah.
negotiate salaries.
Yeah.
They're getting paid, but not what they have to pay. They don't know the average of the industry. Sometimes they do get raises, but it's not covering inflation. So really, are you getting a raise, or is just like something that they're giving you to make you shut up, you know?
Yeah.
So I have a saying
Yeah.
that I think it's a little bit harsh. Like when you're working for a company, they pay you enough so you don't quit. You do what you have to do so you don't get fired.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah, 100%, 100% depend on the kind of job that
yeah.
you have. And I think, to be honest, in Canada, I don't know, based on the culture, because in Brazil, I think we have this fear of being fired kind of all the time, and we are over delivering
Yes.
the time, and I think this is kind of the culture in Brazil, the over delivering culture.
Always. We always over deliver. I think that's a problem that
And
we have.
that's a big problem that we have. I think that's a big problem that we have. And then we can maybe talk a little bit about that, because this probably is a challenge right now, right? With clients sometimes.
hmm
And but I would like you to continue saying, like, you had this internal challenge, and then you're gonna talk a little bit about other challenge, and please share with us.
Okay, so the internal challenges, I think we need to feel comfortable with being uncomfortable, because they will always be there. Something that I think you have to learn when you're doing entrepreneurship is that you're not going to only perform when you have a good day. Like bad days or good days, they have, like, you have an operation to run.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what happens, so you need to separate your feelings from your business, otherwise you're going to fail, because you need to run the operations as a real business, right? So if you only go when you're okay, so you're never going to scale the business to the point that you need to. And the main challenge, I think, at least for me, so when I decided to go into finance, I had the passion. I love helping people. As a journalist, my mission was always to give information that would be life changing for other people. But then that is not enough, right? So you
Yeah.
need to have some business knowledge, like understanding about branding. How do you connect with your clients? How are you going to prospect? How is going to be your social media presence? How are you going to connect with other people? How It's always about prospecting, right? And especially at the beginning when you're building your clientele, like your book of business, you need to get other clients. What is the type of clients you want to be working with? What are you not, interested in working on, and what you need to do to reach different levels and different layers. I think the biggest thing for me, like I started in a different company where I'm at now. So their business model was more like for you to learn things, so you can learn a lot of things, but scaling was a problem because they would only scale with people, and that was my problem. I'm like, a business is supposed to scale with products or services, not only with people.
Okay.
So I think I'm
Or,
grateful for
uh-huh. Hmm.
yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it's not a place that I think is great for you to scale. Because, like, again, like you can scale with people, but if you have a service, you need to scale with your services. So when I left, I started to organize the things the way I wanted to. So now I have my website. So I was struggling a little bit to put an hourly rate, but I think it's very important to know your value. If you don't value your
Yeah.
services and your time, the client is not going to do it,
Yeah.
because if you're not doing it, so how are they going to do it? and understanding how the business in your field is going to operate, right? So I believe now in finance, something that's going to scale a financial business is subscription business model.
Uh-huh.
Because if you think about like these days, many companies, they have subscriptions for everything because people forget about
Yeah.
how many subscriptions they have.
Yeah. Netflix, Crave,
All
and
those
that. Yeah.
things.
That is $10 here, and in the end of the day, you're not using anything.
Exactly, but the companies are calculating revenues, right? So when you start to think about how companies operate, for example, when you have a contract with like a certain service or product, whatever, like usually for services, they do a return of like profit in 2 years, right? So you can phone bill, for example, like if you have a Telos phone that you bought the phone and you have a plan together, you can cancel within 2 years because they're calculating revenue. So then you start to see like, how can I calculate revenue for my business, right? The same way those companies are doing, you need to find ways to operate your own company with your services on a scale that is sustainable. Because if you don't have cash flow, how are you going to operate? Doesn't matter that you have that desire of helping families and you love to help middle class families and lower class market. That's the realization that I had this year actually.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, I was like, if I want to scale this, working with the market I'm working on at the moment, which is lower class and middle class market, it's going to take a long time. So I need to make sure that I develop other, other branch out a little bit, other areas in the business. You can help business owners, you can help corporations. There's a lot of other things that you can do, and you need to specialize yourself on.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in at the same time. So I think the biggest step is to understand who is your market and how people see you, and who is looking for your services, where it's your clientele, like which media they are using the most. Are they using more Instagram? They're using more LinkedIn. Like you need to have a social media presence, of course. And I think the biggest thing is also reviews, right? So you can say a bunch of things about yourself, but
Yeah, 100%. When we're talking about service, yeah, 100%.
I
Yeah.
think like that was the main things for me, like scaling, like how do I scale, like what I want to offer, like how is going to be my brand, what I want to do with the brand. I think like, my next stage is to do a Netflix but for finance. So I want to create something that people can watch short videos on the website and get market updates and things like that. Because I think that's going to be a little bit of the future considering AI and everything. So people will need a reliable source, so you
Yeah.
need to have something that they can, watch. And I think the consumption of financial information and information in general is fast, right? So if you have a 3-hour
Yeah.
video, nobody's going to watch it.
No.
But
Yeah.
if you're able to transfer information in 1-2 minutes, you can have more attention from the people you want to reach out to,
Yeah.
and establish your authority in the field as someone who's specialized in whatever you're doing. In my case, it's finance.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about that? I think because you're already talking about like your field.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we talked before, right, the live, and this idea of what kind of information do I need, right, for me as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Because something that I was studying another day, cash flow. Because as you, as I'm a journalist, I work in marketing, but I have been like a entrepreneur for about 1.5 years right now so far. So, and then you start to figure out like I really need to have this cash flow. I really need to understand where my money is going for, and if it's worthy for me to put the money here or there, and if the hours that people are paying me is going to make sense. So, and something that I want you to talk a little bit more about, it's how do you help entrepreneurs, right? So how can you help with information, financial information? So how does this happen? How is this service?
Mm-hmm.
And is this important? How important this is for entrepreneurs? How do you see it?
I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I think the cash flow, it's one of the things that people don't really visualize, like with the business owners that I work with. So they're so focused on the operations that they're not seeing how the money is being spent, right? So they're concerned about keeping busy and getting, the operations running, but sometimes they don't even know what is tax deductible, what is not tax deductible. If you're a business owner, and if you have, I don't know, establishment or something, like there's a couple things that you can deduct from your gross income, which is going to reduce your tax liability, right?
Mhm.
So, and a lot of people, when they're earning a lot of money and the corporation, so they forget about those expenses. So they end up not knowing what they could reduce to increase the profit, and reduce like the spending, like the expenses of whatever they have to do to run the operations. And I think it's very hard to scale without a cash flow. I think that's something I did. I don't recommend people to do it. I had no family, I had no kids, but it's very hard for you to scale because sometimes you don't have the cash flow to follow the speed of the business.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
because if you scale, like you're like, okay, so I got referrals, people know me, and then you need to have an operation that looks like a real business. Like you can't just operate that is not a real business. You need a physical location, you need a website, you might need administration support. And if you don't have that, you will grow eventually. But if the speed of the growth is ahead of you, you're gonna have financial stress.
Yes.
So I think it's important to prepare a little bit. A lot of people ask me like, "Oh, I want to quit my job and just go into this." My recommendation is make sure you scale the business to level up the income that you were making.
Mhm.
So nothing in your life is going to be different if something changes, and have at least 6 months of an emergency fund, because you don't know. Business is very volatile. So there's months that you're going to make a lot of money, and there's months that you might not make even enough to pay rent. Let's face it, right? So
Yeah, 100%.
that's the reality of it. I think like in terms of helping business owners is more to give them like the long-term visualization of the business, where they're heading, like if they want to open a second location, for how long they want to work. A lot of entrepreneurs, they start to scale the business and they forget about themselves, right? So they have someone to pass the business on, like until when you want to do this, like you want to scale and sell it. You want to take this as your retirement plan, and then you're going to have a successor plan, like who's going to take the business after you when you're tired. And even like seeing how much energy you want to put towards something, because usually entrepreneurs, like we work a little bit less than other people because we put a lot of energy in a short period of time. But what's going to happen, like if you don't save for retirement and you're like, okay, so I'm reinvesting money in the business, until when it's healthy to keep.
Can keep going like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing that I work with, like business owners, and to really help them to reduce the tax liability, right? So a lot of business owners, they sometimes like, oh, I have a really high turnover, and especially if you have a restaurant or if you have a
Yeah.
service type of business, how can you retain your employees, right? So what can you offer that's going to reduce the turnover? Because reducing the turnover means you have to train someone that's going to slow your operations, and then you're never going to have, you're going to be like behind to scale the operations, in a sense that you always have to train somebody. So it's going to slow down the process. But how can you, make sure that you offer good benefits to your client, to your employees, so they stay.
Uh-huh.
And then you can, establish the growth of the business. You don't have a lot of turnover, because turnovers are costs for the business as well. If you have to fire someone, you have to pay severance package. So if you hire someone and it was not good, you just wasted, money training someone and time, and something that's not going to turn the way you want to. I think we have all those conversations that sometimes they don't even have the time to have, because they're so concentrated on the operations, as I mentioned, that they're not thinking with the whole, like they're not seeing the whole picture, right? So I think that happens with a lot of us, because we're always focusing on what we need to get done at the moment, that we forget to see the full picture of it.
And that I think you're talking a little bit about the strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
thinking about how can I understand where I am right now, but where I want to be, and how can I plan ahead. And I agree with you. I think we have a infinite, like a to-do list, right? So
Infinite.
I, right,
Yeah.
we're always there, and this doesn't work when we want to scale, and that's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I would like, and I'm very interested to understand. So, just to kind of make like a summary. So you help people understanding where they are and understanding how they can look at the expenses, not just about the money that's coming in, but the money that is going out, right? That's,
Yes,
I
both.
agree with you. I think at corporations, I have a corporation, and it's difficult to look like, for example, going for a simple like going for a lunch, that is a meeting, and getting the recipe, right, the receipt, right, because this was some I
It's a
this
business expense, exactly. You met someone for business,
yeah,
exactly.
this is a business expense. And something that I'm interested a little bit about, that you have a marketing degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that just want to listen a little bit about how it was for you, the challenge of understanding yourself as a brand, because I understand that you're putting together all this financial thing, but you have a beautiful branding, you know.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a very interesting way. And I just would like to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes of that, you know, if there was work about that, because a lot of us, and myself as well, I worked with marketing, but now marketing is myself, right?
Hmm, yeah.
How can we market ourselves? So I would like to know, how did you thought about that? What kind of process you went through, if you had help, how it works for you?
I think that's a very good question. So I'm a journalist at heart, and I think I'll always be. And marketing is something fun. Like I think it's related because you're trying to give information on a simple way for people to understand. I didn't want people to meet me online and see me different in person. So that was one of the things that to me was super important. What you see is what I am, and that's what I want to associate myself with, even though like I am the brand of the company. I think was important, that part. So it was easy to make the logo because I saw after my name is Wendy Carolina Teodoro
Mhm.
Valerio, but I only use my first and my last name, and my both, like the first letter of my first and my last name is the graphics of investments, right? So and I usually to
Hey, so that's
I was a perfect thing. I think I was born for that
what.
because I was the initials, WV is like the graphics of investing. And I was using my initials for a lot of things. And one day I was like, that's how I'm going to do the brand. So I had someone helping me to design the logo, but I had the idea based on the initials. And in terms of what I talk about, I think I'm very honest with my clients as well. When someone comes and talk to me, I have a lot of ambition to get to different places. I'm not where I wanted to be financially at the moment, but I will, we're all building something. And I think it takes a lot of bravery as well to go into entrepreneurship, and in finance as a woman, it's a very male dominated industry, but not any longer. So I'm here to change that.
Yeah,
And so this is one of the things that I found interesting, and honestly speaking, Anna, I think there's a lot of labels again that people put into us. And I think I left from a very like, small neighborhood in Sao Paulo, like a very like middle class neighborhood. Like my family's not rich. And I think a lot of the times when I wanted to do different things that was out of the norm, people would question that was not for me because I didn't belong that or that. And then you break that all down and you're like, you belong anywhere you want to belong. I think it's more like I thought a lot about that. And when I have conversation with clients, and especially people who are starting to invest, like they're like, well, $100 is nothing. I'm like, no, it's not nothing. I showed them
yeah,
into perspective, right? So if
yeah,
you're saving money for retirement, or if you want to buy a home, if you save $100 now,
yeah,
it's better than not having anything. And on the long run, depends on how old you are, you can scale your money to $1 million, right? Because business and investments is scaling money
yeah,
for investments, but for business, you're scaling the business for the same reason, for money.
yeah,
But in terms of branding, like I want to, like I'm always sincere with my clients when they ask like things that it's personal. Like, as I said, I'm a business owner as well. I'm human. I think a lot of the time as women and as a business owner, sometimes people are like, oh, you have to be strong because you're entrepreneur, you're black women. And I'm like, I just want to be human. I'm like everybody
uh-huh,
else. I have knowledge on the thing that I'm providing as a service because that's something I value a lot. I think finance is not only the money, it's the psychological part of
yeah,
things as well, because we have a lot of mental blocks. And I think that's when the clients are having the
yeah,
breakthrough, when they understand, the baggages that they have, because maybe in their family they didn't talk about money, or money was a shameful topic, or maybe they're afraid, of losing everything. Like I don't know what goes into their mind. So I'm always working with them to understand where they're coming from. So from that, I take the ideas to do the marketing pieces as well from the
okay,
conversations that I have,
okay, yeah,
That's
that,
how I create the content, because I'm like, that's what I heard and that's what people are feeling right now. I try to be relatable in that way. But
uh-huh,
I think mostly it's just trying to show that, real people struggle, because sometimes people think that wealth is built overnight, and it's not built overnight.
yeah, that's we were talking about something that is the money, and I was having a conversation today in the morning in a meeting we should stop talking about relationship and start talking about
Mhm.
money. And if Freud was born again, he will talk about money, not anymore about love, or
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
This money is energy, right? And money has so much, is so related to where we come from.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I would love to hear a little bit about you, how it is to deal with different cultures in this aspect. If
Mhm.
there are difference or if you see difference, right?
I see a lot of difference. I think one of the things that I notice with my clients that they come from wealth, like they come from a very comfortable, financial background. They're not afraid of things, and they have this sense of deserving.
Okay.
So they don't question what they deserve. And then sometimes when clients are coming from humble beginnings, they even question that they deserve the salary that they have. Sometimes they struggle to do things for themselves or to travel. They have no plans. And it's funny, because there's some clients who are like, wow, you're saving more than $3,000 a month. And then I have to encourage them to do things because they're so concerned that they will come back. They will go back to the point where they started, right? So from nothing.
Uh-huh.
So this is one of the things that I work on with the clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, the deservingness of understanding what you deserve in life, it's something that you can build on and learn. I think sometimes we question our own value, and that's when things get a little bit complicated. But in different cultures, different backgrounds, financial backgrounds will play a big role. I'll give you an example of
Yeah,
a friend of mine.
but
She was
I'd love to hear examples. That was, yeah, looking for.
That
Yeah.
was very funny for me. So she called me, and she's in Brazil, and she's like, "Oh, my son really wants to go and see snow. Like, when is it snowing in Vancouver?" I'm like, "Right now." She's like, "Oh, right now it's not gonna happen." And she said he was complaining that he was the only kid in school that didn't go to Disneyland yet. And for me, he's 5 years old, and he's with all those demands. I was like, okay. So for me, the way I grew up was like, if you have a bed, if you have food, if you have a shower, you're good. My mom was like, this is it. You got to study. Like we always, it's a different perspective. So, and you see, like, it's not wrong that some people have access to other things because when you have more money, you value more experiences
Yeah.
than anything else. Like I think rich people and people who are well off financially, they understand the whole game of like building wealth because they appreciate more their time, and that cross different cultures as well. I don't think it's different in between. There's difference in between a Brazilian, a Canadian,
Got it.
a European, because like depends on the layer that you were born into. Financially speaking, the experiences are the same
Okay.
in different parts of the world.
Okay.
Like I think that's, and it's very clear when you talk. Like I have a Slovakian client that I'm talking to right now. He is working since he's 14 as well.
Uh-huh.
So for him, like what he values to give to the kids is more experiences. He doesn't want them to. It's two kids that he has, like two daughters, and he doesn't want them to be like using makeup and things like that. It's like I don't like that pressure that capitalism puts towards women.
Okay.
They stop,
Yeah.
and I think the mentality is similar.
Uh-huh.
Depends on how you started your financial journey and how your family was dealing with money as
Okay.
well.
So it's a lot about the background, right? So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that you need to do like a huge job, like organizing how to think and feel about money, and
Yes.
then move from there.
Yeah.
I am kind of figuring this out
Hmm.
because I'm just having conversations with myself while you were talking,
Okay.
and many of those things like the sense of deservedness, like and we need to always, and some people are stuck with the full-time job not because of not because they need the money, but they need the validation.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then doing that and getting the like, no, I'm gonna try, right? I'm gonna give up of this validation, of this industry validation, and I'm going to validate myself, and
Hmm.
I'm going to prepare myself financially to do that, right?
Exactly.
And I want to ask, do you have people with this kind of profile that goes to you to say, I am planning to do a big change in my life, and I don't want to have my full-time job anymore, and I'm going to try to do everything by myself and be an entrepreneur. Do you have this kind of profile?
I have some people like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of people interested in sabbatical year. So that's one thing that I hear a lot here.
Yeah.
So they want to be 1 year away working in a different country or just taking the year to travel and discover new places. In terms of like switching from employee to entrepreneurship, like there's a lot of people that want to, but again, they have that fear when they sense the lack of stability that you have when you're doing entrepreneurship is different, right? So it's not like you're not going to have a steady paycheck, but I think it's worse to have the steady paycheck and not be happy with
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
than, trying. But again, like trying, like to build a business,
Yeah.
you need a lot, like, and especially the cash flow to start. So you're not concerned about the things that you need for your basic needs, which is like rent and food and I don't know, pharmacy bills and things like that, things that you need to survive.
Yeah.
Because if you go into a meeting and you're trying to you're building your business and you're giving that sense of like desperation to your client is also not good.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
really need you, right? This doesn't work even in an interview. So this is something that we always use in a strategy.
Mhm.
When we go to interview, we say you're choosing as well, right?
Yes.
The person is choosing, but you're the person as well. Like you said, who I want to work with
Yeah.
or who I want to work for, right? Because it's not everybody. Doesn't exist this
No, you
profile
can't work with everybody.
with everybody. It's always important to understand as well the possibility of changing, right? With this profile right now, but I want to work with another profile. And something that we discussed before is something that is a reality in Canada is the access for loans and for as well like different kind of programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clubs and I would like you to share a little bit about that because I think this is so important, like for people to open their minds
Oh yeah.
and get the Brazilian community and kind of or their own community, like
Mm-hmm.
the Brazilian, but looking outside because Canada is multicultural. There are so many things going on.
Yeah.
Are we talking about that? And I would love you to share a little bit about those opportunities that are out there, right?
Yeah, no, this is huge. This is huge. And I think sometimes we waste time because we don't know the
Yeah.
information. So I think there's a bunch of like different groups, like networking groups and groups like separated into like different nationalities and stuff that if you go and you start to cultivate those relationships, like it's going to branch out to things that you sometimes not even imagine that they can go that far. One of the things that I learned recently is that the government of Canada also hires, small businesses to get the services that they need. And that was mind blowing to me. I'm like, what? I can sell my services to the government? Yes, you can, because the government's going to need, they have employees as well. So they need group benefits. They need financial support. They have things that you can get contract with. And then you get paid for a period of time. And if you develop those relationships, that's it's one contract that can scale your business to a different direction. But if you focus only on B2C and not
Yeah.
B2B, B2C, but that's the point. I love working with individuals because you can see an evolution that you did in somebody's life. But if you want to have a sustainable business, you either scale in the B2C like in crazy levels so you can sustain yourself, or you're gonna have to go to B2B only, which is not something I'm super interested. I think I like a mix of the two.
Yeah.
But yes, like I discovered recently, going back to the procurement course, so through the Black Business Association, Entrepreneurship Association, I think that's how they call it, BEBC. So they're doing a procurement course, like teaching us how we can bid with the government. How can we put our services? There's a website that's called something Canada. I can't remember the name of the website now, but it's we'll find out later so we can share with everybody. But there's a website that you can actually go and bid on those offers that the government have. So you can offer your services and you might get picked, right? So you might get something out of it. And that's something that really opened my perspective. I was like, wow, I didn't think about that, but that's something you can do as well. And sometimes you just
Yeah, no, because and again, because we are so overwhelmed about the to-do list
yes, there's a lot to do.
and so kind of repeat what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, right? So we kind of, and that happens a lot in marketing, and I imagine that happens in finance as well. Or I know I cannot invest because I have just $100. Oh no, I cannot do that because I don't have the profile, or I cannot. like, and it's not true
Mm.
in the end, right? So, and if we decided to immigrate, like, and be in a new country, so what kind of opportunity this multicultural society and this kind of different kind of structure, right,
Mm.
can help or can offer, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, and the procurement course was one of the things. And you were talking a little bit as well about if people knew that, right?
At the beginning,
Or
oh
yeah,
gosh.
and like if you can talk a little bit about, or just talk about two or three things, right? That if people knew this, and that, before starting a business, that will make so much different in the end, because I see that. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, what people should know.
What they should know, I think, well, like, I think the first thing is to understand that, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So the people you know, it's your net worth. Your network is your net worth. So I learned that because sometimes I think when people go to networking events, they want to work on what they can take, but it's more about building the connections, and generally going through like those process of like meeting people, but interested in what they can offer as well, right? Because I think like somebody, you don't know someone, but if they know your work and they know like how reliable you are, they can be a source of referral. But don't go to networking events trying to, make people be like your main point of like marketing or something just for you to take things. I think the first thing is being open-minded to an exchange.
Okay.
Remember that your network is your net worth, so that's very
That's
important. This is a big one. That's a big one.
a big
I
one.
learned that,
That's,
yeah, it's true, Anna, because sometimes you don't know someone, but someone knows someone
yeah.
that you can get introduced to that person, and because they know, it's done, It's
Yeah.
basically that.
And I think networking is a lot about building it's about building connections. It's not necessarily about getting things from other people, and that's the point.
Yes.
And that and this is something that in the Brazilian or in Latin American culture we don't have so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of and the clubs is so much about that, right? We are together and then we can build something new together, not necessarily by you providing me service or I providing service for you.
Mm-hmm.
We can do something else, and this is what is gonna or grow, right? So we're gonna grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just want to highlight that because this is something that is super important,
Yeah,
and
it's extremely important.
and talking about Vancouver, even more important. Okay, let's go for a second.
Second one, I think having a business plan, it's important.
Okay.
We underestimate the value of the business plan, and I think the business plan is not for other people. It's for you to know the direction where, like from where you're going to start and where you want to get, because if you don't know, you're just like lost. And if you don't know your purpose, it's not going to work. It's not just writing down like just to say you have a business plan, but often adapt and readjust your plans following whatever is happening for you. Like if that didn't work, like changing quickly as well. It's not that you have a business plan that is the only thing that you're going to follow, but being able to adapt your plan based on whatever opportunities you're
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
So I think this is the second biggest thing. And I think the third thing, it's understanding about the grants. The
Okay.
government, they have like bunch of grants. How can you get business loans? How can you get into procurement as well? Like how can you
Uh-huh.
get into those deals that the government's offering money? Like they basically have $31 billion that they can offer. Like imagine, like it's mind blowing the number. If you get a million or a couple hundred thousands, like how much that can change your business.
Yeah.
And thinking about those parts as well, like what the government is offering, the grants, the loans I can get. And again, we're gonna go back to the cash flow thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to
We
have
back to flow. Cash flow, it's mind blowing. I'm doing cash flow now.
cash flow. You need to do the cash flow so you understand where you're at, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say like, okay, my business is not, selling enough. Like I'm selling one course. Like what can I do to do three or four? How much do you need to be sustainable, right? Because
Yeah.
business is about numbers. It's a numbers game, right? So I need three, I need four. Like how much do I need to actually sell to say this business is sustainable and to say that I have a company? Because it's not only having the name.
Yes.
So what's happening with the goals that you established for yourself back then and the business plan, and how is it going, right? So if you need to change something, maybe the
Yeah.
industry is not good, maybe my idea was not the greatest idea, but I tried.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the failure part of things, like we never, like, even when you're doing something that is not helping you for what you want for the business, we always learn with the failures that we have. And I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is to fix very fast so you're not wasting time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Fail fast, right? So I think this,
Yeah. And
so
early, fail fast and fail early.
fail exactly, because and that's something that a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people, it's like we cannot be so much attached with our ideas from the beginning, right? Because sometimes we have an idea, we imagine that something is going to work, but not necessarily, or it's going to work, but it's going to work for a while, and then something
Yeah.
change, and then it's not working. Or and that doesn't mean that the end of your business, means just that you need to
You
adapt,
need
right?
to adapt,
Oh,
yeah.
if you're a small business, you have so much more opportunity and flexibility to adapt, and then if you're a big company,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Because I think this is something that we look at small business as a sometimes as a weaknesses. Now we are small, but not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you can learn fast and adapt fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and there is one more thing that we were discussing before, and talk about. We need to know, right? Cash flow. If you can talk a little bit more about cash flow, because now a lot of people is kind of okay, but what's the cash
What is the cash
flow?
flow? So,
Cash flow, or just a little bit, just for people to kind of, oh, okay, this is what I
what is the
have.
cash flow?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you an example. Like, I think the easiest way to understand is that when you receive income, you are kind of a company, right? So that income is gonna pay all the expenses that you have, and then whatever is left is gonna be the money that you profit out of your work, right? So that's the calculation that I do with individuals and people as well. But let's put on the like employee side of things. So if I earn $4,000, this is my income, and my expenses are 3,500. I only have $500 cash flow. This is my profit. I'm basically working to sustain my life, but it's not very profitable, that job, right? Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
earning 4,000
Uh-huh.
and I'm spending 3,500 because that's what I need to survive. So I have $500 to play with, so I can save $6,000 a year. This is a vacation for me. Basically, I'm just working to sustain my life. And how
Yeah.
long do you want to sustain that? Like on a business perspective, like if you have,
Mhm.
like $4,000 that you're earning, and then you spending 3,500 to run the operations, how long is gonna take for you to increase your net worth? You're only saving really $6,000 a year. It's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. And this is something that you help people with, like,
Yes.
and then okay, but how I'm gonna figure this out? How much do I need to how less I need to expand, and how much do I need to earn? But do you discuss with clients about the product? This so now I'm asking you,
For you, okay.
yeah, like something like, oh, you need to sell this amount of courses because this is the goal, and this, oh, and if you don't sell this, then we're gonna need to think about another product in your,
Another
yeah.
source of revenue. Yeah. So I talk about that with business owners and with people. I think people learn how to earn money and how to spend money. They don't know how to save money.
Okay.
So my challenge for those people is to understand how much money they're earning. And sometimes it's not the coffee that they're buying that is making them poor, is not budgeting for what they need. And that's the whole point. When you have an income, if you need your brunch every Sunday, it's not taking the brunch away that's going to make you save millions and millions of dollars. You're going to be unhappy. But
Yeah.
if you do know that you need that, you need to budget for that. And I think that's people underestimate the value of a budget. And I think for me is the basics of everything. So it's the
Yeah.
base for any financial foundation that you want to build for yourself because you know where you're at and what you need to do. Again, we're going to do the calculation. So if I have $4,000 and I'm saving, 500, and if this 500 is not there, where is this money going? Because that's what happens with a lot of people.
Yeah.
When I do the calculations with them, I ask how much is your rent, how much is groceries, how much is subscriptions, gym, do you pay therapy, like all your expenses listed. You're supposed to be saving $500 a month. Where is this 500? They're like, I don't know. So now you're gonna have to be the Sherlock Holmes of your own money to understand where this money is going.
Yeah.
And they realize sometimes that they are paying subscriptions that they don't have to pay because they're not using it,
Yeah.
or that they are overspending with things that they don't notice, because again, people learn how to earn money and how to spend money. They see the credit card bill, but they don't see like, oh, I overspend on this, I'm just going to pay because that's the bill.
Yeah.
So I think it's learning how to understand and being realistic with yourself where you're at, not judging yourself for everything that it's in the past. Like from here, if you change your behavior, things can be better.
Yeah. And it's a lot about changing behaviors, and that, and we have more 5 minutes.
Okay, that went by very fast.
Really, yeah, the conversation is good, it's always fast.
Yes.
I want you to talk a little bit, because you talked a little bit about how do you want to scale. So I want you to share, what are your plans for the future, near future, future, and if you can end this conversation with a message.
Okay. For the future, I see the company like growing into like, I love the short videos to
Yeah,
educate people about money. I want to do a Netflix but for
that's,
finance. So that's one of the things.
that's an idea.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that would be great. And I want to start a podcast like talking about stories as well, because I think a lot of the conversations I have, essentially, it's about the stories and the psychology behind
yeah,
money. So this is something I wanted to start and I didn't start. And I'm like, I'm not going to be fancy. I'm just going to start. And I think in the future, like in the next like 2 years at least, so my goal is to scale more to the B2B side, because then I can sustain a little bit more of the business and I can do all the other things on the B2C side, which is offering more podcasts, offering more resources. And to establish the business, I have to mix the two.
yeah,
But I think that's where I see the company in the next 2 years, like working a little bit more with corporations. I think, as we said at the beginning, a lot of people don't know what to do in Canada if you have a corporation. Sometimes they don't know how to reduce the tax liability, what they can deduct, what they can't deduct, what they can do. Sometimes even for families, right? So there's a lot of like high income earners in a family. And they're like, oh, I'm paying so much taxes, what I can do. Like understanding a little bit more of the system so that can work for them, not against them.
yeah,
So this is one of the things, and I think it's information, right? So I think we have a lot of information online these days, but people don't know how to differentiate
yeah.
what is true, what is not true, because now I think we're all overwhelmed. So you
Well,
need to check the sources, you need to see like who is talking and checking the information and reliable sources as well. So this is the direction I'm going with the company. I think this like building the video part of things is going to take a while, because the website, you should be ready for that, and
sure.
you need to do a lot of security, but that's my goal for the next 2 years at least.
Amazing, and I'm looking forward to see it.
Me too. Me too. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great.
And a message. So I think, as I said, like everybody starts somewhere. I think a lot of people are afraid of starting to look into their finances because there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, judgment from other people, and sometimes our own judgment. I think it's worse than the ones that comes from outside. And as we were saying early on, right? So understanding the labels that society and people are putting into you, and which ones are really part of you and which ones are not part of you. Because sometimes I think we don't start things because we're afraid of how people are going to perceive us.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing we can do, because one thing that we all have, it's time. And time, like the time that we spent today, which was very great, it's not going to come back, it's done. So being mindful about that and doing things that makes you happy, and again, it's not taking the coffee away or the brunch or buying the one t-shirt that you need to buy every month, because that's your way to reward yourself. It's more understanding where you're at and not judging yourself too much. I think sometimes we do, like I do have that a little bit myself, and I'm working on not judging myself that much, because that's how we grow. Like if you don't fail, how there's no way to fix anything that you're not aware of.
Yeah, so let's fail. I'll fail fast and
And
fail like it, not as not judging the fail, but learning with it.
exactly, learning with it. And that's honestly, and especially, Anna, if you are an entrepreneur, that's the only way you can fix
Yeah,
things. And the gold thing is like your network. It's your net worth, like having people like that have the same energy around you that can lift you up, and believing in your own goals yourself, right? Because sometimes the vision is too big for the other person that you're telling the vision to, but you know exactly where you're going. So you need to trust your gut
yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah. 100.
Trusting your gut feeling, I think that's it's the boldest thing to do, because it's hard to do it, but I think it's important to get it done.
Yeah, Yeah, trust in ourselves and believe and enjoy the
Oh
ride.
yeah, it's a wild ride. If you
I
want to be,
enjoy
it's an interesting ride.
the ride because it's a ride. It's a big
It's
ride.
a big
Roller
ride. Yeah.
coaster sometimes, but we need to be 100% on it. You know, like and allow ourselves to enjoy the process as well.
Mhm.
Because if we don't enjoy the process,
Then what? Yeah. It's a tricky one, you know. I remember my doctor said that once. He said, you know, like when you see the heartbeat when someone it's alive, it's like da 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 da. It's very when it's a steady line, it's a bad thing. And he questioned me. He's like, you're so concerned about things that is part of life, so your heart's still beating. Like, don't get concerned about, you know, the detours along the way and everything that is detouring you. Like maybe there's another answer. And I never forgot that because it's true. Like when we are at the hospital, if everything is like up and down, it's okay, your heart is okay, everything is functioning well. But when you see a steady line is done, and I think that's what we need to get used to, right? That life, it's always changing, there's always like cycles, and it's well said and difficult. It's difficult to do it. It's easily said and difficult. It's difficult to do it
yeah.
because we're
But
humans.
yeah, but that's why we are here, right? So we are here to help. So you were doing your job to help. I'm here to support as well, and we have so many other small business supporting each other and
Exactly.
supporting each other and understanding that we're not alone in the ride because we need to enjoy the ride, but we don't need to enjoy the ride alone.
Exactly.
Many people that can be with us, you know, and this idea of networking and be with other people and sharing and trying to exchange ideas, that helps a lot as well to make you feel, oh, it's not just about me. This is not my challenge. This is the
The
challenge.
challenge for everyone.
So
Yeah,
let's figure out how other people are doing it and let maybe I can learn something and do it. And it's going to be easier for myself as well.
exactly. Exactly. We all learn from each other, you know, like it's not an easy road, and especially if you don't have business experience, but as you're providing branding, which is the foundation of everything. So you do marketing services. So I think you can help a lot of entrepreneurs to take the idea out of their head and make them, you know,
Yeah.
see things come into reality. And I think it's the biggest thing to start.
Yeah.
Someone that helps you to clarify the ideas, and I'm sure you're gonna do an amazing job with them. So
Yeah.
go to Anna for branding.
Yeah. No, and I love to help people like you help as well in the meaning of understanding the strategy, understanding the goals, understanding the situation that you are, and not feeling overwhelmed trying to just repeat what other people are saying because not necessarily this is as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wendy, it was lovely. I knew we would be amazing.
Oh, thank you. It was lovely. It was a very fast conversation. We could be
Yeah.
talking about this for hours.
Thank
Thank you for the invitation,
no,
Anna. It was
you so
incredibly
yeah.
interesting to, go back and reflect on my own journey as well. Thank you for everything.
No, thank you very much for being here, for sharing so much and so lovely and in a lovely way and so
Thank
much.
you. No problem. Anytime.
It was a pleasure. So I'm going to share so then other people
Perfect.
can take
We'll see
it.
you.
And I'm looking forward to see the financial Netflix.
Oh yeah, me too. Me
Yeah,
too. Me too.
be amazing. And anybody that needs financial advisor, I think Wendy is an amazing person to talk with. So yeah, let's keep going and thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you, Anna. We have big things to do, so it was great.
And everybody have a lovely night. Thank you for
Bye, everyone. So thank
yeah.
you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Anna.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.